Welcome back, guys. In this video lesson, we're going to take a look at how to use effects, but first we're going to take a look at how we can change the properties of a clip, and by that I mean the scaling, position, etc. So right here in my timeline, you can see that I have a clip of Kim her feet. I was trying to make a point of view shot of her, but I accidentally also shot my own feet. So what I want to do is kind of zoom this clip a little bit so that my feet are off. And in order to do that, I have to head over to the effects controls, which we can find right up here. By default, it sits right there, but if you can't find that window, let me just click on that. You can also head over to the window again and search for the effect controls right there. Now opening up this window, you can see that it says no clip selected. So that means that we have to select a clip, of course, in order to use this panel. So let's select the clip right here, clip number 9, and now you can see that some properties will appear within this window. Now we can find two categories in here. We have the video effects and we've got the audio effects of that clip. And because the audio and the video right in here are linked together, we can also see both of them. But let's drag in quickly only the video layer of this shot right here into the timeline. Let's go back to the effect controls and now select clip number 9, this right here, with only the video track. Then we won't see those audio effects. Alright, let's get back to that first clip right here. Under the video effects, we can find several categories, and let's start with the motion. You can expand that. Right in here, we can find some basic properties of that clip, such as the position, and we can change that position by just changing the values right here. By clicking and dragging this value to the left side or to the right side, you can see that we can change that value and also change the position of that clip. The other value right here is the vertical movement. So that way we can kind of change the position of our clip, and this is sometimes pretty cool if you are working with multiple clips. So for example, let's bring in a second clip, this one right here, clip number 8. Let's drag only the video layer to track number 2. And what I'm going to do right now is click on clip number 8, head over to the effects controls again, and offset that position, like so. And now you can see that the track below will reveal itself because we are moving it to the right side. So knowing this, we can view multiple shots within one framing, use multiple layers and just offset their position. Alright, let me just delete that clip again, like so. Let's focus on this one right here. Let's assume that we have accidentally changed the position and we want to reset that back to the default. What we can then do is easily press here on the reset button on the right side. There we go. And that will reset those values. Now you can see that we have tons of these values here. We also have scaling, which is pretty obvious. We can scale the clip like this. And also again, we can reset that value. We got a rotation, like that. We also have an anchor point, and the anchor point is actually the point where the clip has to rotate around. And to show that visually to you, what you can do with the motion property is select it here on top. And that way, we can visually change it in here in our program monitor. You can see that a wireframe comes around this clip right here, and that means I can just take that wireframe like this, make it smaller, drag it to a different position, etc. Now I know that I can select the motion property and do this visually because there's this small little icon next to it. And we'll see that later on as well when we're going to work with effects. It's this little icon right here next to the motion property. And that tells me that I can select that property and change these values visually in my program monitor. Alright, let me change that anchor point. I can do that either right here by just changing that value. And you can see right now that that middle point right here is getting a different location. So I can set it all the way to the left side, for example, like that. And now when I'm going to change the rotation, it will rotate around that point and not anymore around the middle of the clip. So that is what the anchor point does. Now, if you have changed many of these values right here and you would like to reset everything with one click, then you can also reset the entire motion property here on top by pressing on this reset button next to it, like that. So like we were saying, my feet is in this shot, so what I want to do is kind of zoom in a tiny bit. You can change the value right here, just increase that like that, and now my feet are off. In other words, I have cropped my feet off this shot. Alright, let's collapse that property right here. And let's have a look at the next one, opacity. And the opacity is pretty straightforward. We can decrease the opacity or increase the opacity. And what we are actually doing is making the clip transparent. And again, to show this better to you, what I'm going to do is drag another clip. Let's again take clip number 8 right here. Drag that on video channel number 2, like that. Select clip number 8, head over to the effects controls. And from here, I'm going to decrease the opacity of that clip. And now you can see that we are kind of revealing both of these clips in one shot. There's also a function to blend this clip in a specific way with the clip below. Let's put the opacity back to 100% like that. And below that, we can see the blend mode. And currently it says normal, which is actually no blending mode. But when I'm going to click on that, you'll see that we have many options from a drop-down menu. And we can, for example, set this to multiply. And that will blend this clip in a specific way with the clip below. And there are also other blending modes like, for example, this one right here, linear dodge, like that. This one blows out a bit more. You also have some different things like subtract, which will kind of make it negative, etc. It's something that you can experiment with and see what these settings do. All right, I'm going to delete this clip right here, the one on top, and let's focus again here on clip number 9, because what I want to do now is add extra effects to this clip. We have seen the default options of a clip, which is a scale, position, anchor point, etc. But there are also creative effects, and those creative effects can be found in our effects library right here, which is again another window which gives us some more functionalities. And again, if you can't locate that window, head over to the window menu here on top and select effects right here. Now this right here is a library full with effects that we can drag onto our clips. And we can either expand these folders right here and look for a specific effect that we want. For example, under the distortion, we can find magnify. And we can drag this onto our clip like so. And with having that clip selected, you will now see under the effects controls that magnify effect has been applied to that clip as well. And it also gives us a bunch of options which we are used to. It works again the same way. We can change a certain value in here. We can kind of see what it does in our program monitor, or we can also reset that value at any time. This works exactly the same as with the basic properties of that clip underneath the motion. Now what this magnify effect will do, for example, is let's increase that size of that magnification like so. And now we can increase the magnification itself, and that way we can kind of zoom into our clip on a specific point. Now, like I said before, I know from the motion property that I can click on that and visually change my settings within the program monitor. This magnify effect also has that little icon next to it, as you can see right here. So that way I know I can select this effect, head over to the program monitor and visually change something of that effect, like so. To delete an effect, simply click on it and hit the delete key on your keyboard. It's that simple. All right, let's say that you are looking for a very specific effect in your effects library. Do you have to scroll through all of these folders? Of course not. We can just use the search bar on top. And let's type in here blur, because I kind of want to blur my image. And let's scroll down until I find the Gaussian blur, which is a standard blur effect, which is also used very often. Let me just drag that to my clip, like so. And now you will see here in my effects controls, and always make sure, by the way, that your clip is selected. If it's not selected, it could be that your playhead sits on that clip, but that it is not selected like this, and then you also won't see anything in the effects controls. So always click on it to reveal the effects that have been applied on that clip. Now right here, this effect doesn't have that little icon next to it. So I know that I don't have to select that effect like this, because I can't change anything visually in my program monitor. I have to do it all manually from here within the settings. So here we can increase that blurriness. Let's increase that value like this, and that will blur the image. Now does that mean that we can only apply one effect to this clip? Of course not. Let's get back to the effects library. The next thing that I want to search for is the roughen edges. Right here. And drag that effect to our clip, like so. Now let's head back to that effects controls right here, and let's just change a few of these values. For example, increase the border, like that. We can also change the edge type to roughen color. This is something that you have to play with. Change some of the settings and see what they do. Let's increase the scale to end with, there we go. Perhaps maybe also increase the edge sharpness a tiny bit more, like that. Because there's something very important that I want to show you guys. We can add multiple effects to our clips, but there's something very important to keep in mind to get a desired result, and that is the order of effects. Right now, I first Gaussian blur my clip because it's first in line. Let me just collapse these effects so that you can see it better. We have that one first in line, the Gaussian blur. It's applied to our clip. And the next one is the roughen edges. So the roughen edges are also being applied on the Gaussian blur effect. But what if I would change the order of effects? Let me just drag the Gaussian blur below the roughen edges, like so. We can change the order. What we are now doing is first applying the roughen edges effect to that clip, and then we're going to apply a Gaussian blur on the roughen edges and on our clip. And you can also see it here in the program monitor what it does. Let me just change that back quickly so that you can see the before and the after like this and like that. So if you want to get a desired result, but you are having trouble to get there, then you might want to change the order of effects. Now, something that you might notice now while applying all of these effects to your clips is that you'll start to get trouble playing this back because you've applied so many effects to it and you can't play it back so smoothly anymore inside Premiere, and that is completely normal. So let's play this clip and see how that goes. Okay, this machine seems to be pretty heavy, so it's playing back pretty good. Let's maybe apply a few more effects to it. Let's type in lighting, because I know that that is a pretty heavy effect as well, like this. It doesn't matter what I'm creating right now. Let's play it back right now. Okay, it's still playing back smoothly. My PC is just way too heavy. Let's assume that it's not playing back smoothly. What we can then do is head over to our program monitor right here and change its resolution. It's already set to 1/4, and maybe that's why it was playing back smoothly. But let's set this to full, and let's see how it will now go. Alright, you can already see that it has a bit more trouble playing it back. Yes, now we are getting a choppy playback. Exactly what I needed. So if you are running into this trouble, you can change your playback resolution to 1/2, 1/4, 1/8, doesn't matter. Play with that and see what gives you a smooth playback. But let's assume that you're still not getting that smooth playback. Perhaps you are editing on a laptop or something. What you can then do is pre-render your clips inside the timeline. And I know that I can pre-render my clips because of this red line here on top of this edit right here. And that red line here in the timeline says to me that Premiere Pro cannot play this back in real time. It will have trouble playing it back. So it will kind of suggest to you by showing this red line that we have to render it. Now what rendering will actually do is export that piece of your clip in your timeline to your hard drive. Does that mean that we have to go into the menus, look for the export settings? Not at all. It's just one simple button. When you are in your timeline, simply hit the return key on your keyboard. Like that, and now you'll see that it will start rendering. And that's the only thing that you have to do. And now you will see in your timeline that that line becomes green, which means that Premiere Pro can play this back in real time because we have rendered that clip. And now it will always play back smoothly, even if we would set this right here to full. Look at that. But let's now assume that we want to make changes to this. Let's go back into the settings right here and let's go to the Gaussian blur. Let's add a bit more Gaussian blur to it. Now when I'm going to do this, you'll see that that red line appears again. Didn't we render this before? Well, exactly, we did render this, but we rendered a different version of that. Premiere actually exported that video clip. And because we made these changes, it also changed, so it can't play back that exported clip anymore. So that means we have to re-render it. So that is something to keep in mind. Alright guys, the last thing that I want to show you is how you can save the settings that you've made to the effects that you've applied to that clip, because maybe you want to add these same effects later in the future again to a certain clip. What you can then do is save all of your settings right here into a preset. And that can simply be done by selecting the effects that you want to have in your preset. And you can select multiple effects by clicking on one and then holding down your Control key or the Command key for Mac users to select multiple effects like so. And then simply right-click on it and say Save Preset. You can then give it a name, for example, My Awesome Effect, and hit OK. You can also give it a description if you want so, but you don't have to. Now, where can we locate that preset? Well, again, back into our effects library. I'm just going to delete here the search bar like this, and you will see that we also have a folder called Presets. Let's expand that folder, and right in there we can find My Awesome Effects. And the cool thing about this is that this preset will always be available in any project you create in the future. So you don't have to relocate it here anymore. So let's drag this right here, My Awesome Effect, to the other clip that we have in our timeline. There we go. All three effects are now also applied to that clip. Do you want to make changes to your preset or delete that preset? You can always do so. Just right click on it and say delete. Okay, and that is how the effects work inside Premiere Pro. Remember that you have to pay attention to the order to get a specific result, and that you sometimes need to render or change your resolution playback. Thank you again for watching. In the next lesson, we're going to take a look at how you can make transitions between two clips.